Hi, Saturday afternoon here, and what I forgot to say in the previous video was I saw a bit of an article as well on neat work areas versus cluttered work areas. And to a degree, a cluttered work area, when I say cluttered, that's actually the wrong word, a busy work area where you've got a number of things on the go versus everything stashed away very nicely. The busy work area sort of promotes creativity up to a degree. Now, while you get people that need to work in very clean environments, very organized and set environments, I'm not one of them. However, I always work myself into an over-cluttered state, like right now. So yes, there is this sort of good level of multiple projects going on, and then there's the point at which it gets silly and I need to clean up again. Inside and on this desk and get things in order a little bit. So I'm going to do that. I took a whole bunch of models out of the model room inside and I brought them out, and I sort of started just looking at a number of project models which I had lined up. And some of them I sort of look at it like one of them was the Airfix Dauntless, which has the recessed holes for the dive brakes. And I started drilling them out, and you know, the drill never follows that hole exactly. You can get it right, but I don't think their holes were molded perfectly either, so it looks really bad. So I'd have to remake those 4 dive brakes, which is not the worst, but it sort of got me thinking about how much effort is worth a particular model, considering I have the Hasegawa model next to it as well. So it's not a case of what do I need to do to build a nice Dauntless. What you do is you use the good kit. But I like the challenge of fixing up old things occasionally. But anyway, there's a number of them that sort of really just need to be set aside for a while. But I'm also feeling like I'm getting back into wood mode. And I have been promising to get back to this, and I think it's time to do these two. Wheelie, which is not a difficult project at all, less time than an average model. It's just a different mindset, and I have been saying that I'm getting to it. And then also the Marina. So this Marina is in a very nicely progressed state, and if you were watching my videos long ago, this Marina is one that a friend of mine built long ago. When I say he built it, he started it just to the point of the frames and the hull, and that went all completely pear-shaped on him at that stage, and I redid it. So I'm now up to this point, and while it's far from a perfect build, it's a nice build, and it will definitely make something nice to take out onto the water, which I would actually like to do in videos. But as one does go through cycles, when I'm in when I say finer, when I'm at least in plastic model mode, even though I haven't been in fine detailing mode for quite a while, I'm not really feeling this wood building vibe, so to speak. And when I do wood, I get a bit out of the plastic mode vibe. So let's see if I can make good headway on this, since it is so very far progressed. There's the there is the cabin. Here are the deck. There's those storage lockers. I printed some fish and stuck them in the bottom there. That works not too badly. This was probably February or March when I was busy on these. Can't remember exactly. So these are quite nicely progressed to the point where it's the masts that were now, I can't remember exactly which one goes where, but they go into these holes. That one goes there more or less. There's still a fair bit to do. There's a lot of small details. We've got these two little pieces around which ropes get wrapped, but we do also have three or four masts. So while I sort of get this workspace cleaned up, I'm going to need to really clean up this whole desk, get ready to take this further. By the way, the absolute next step that I was on with this one was I'd done that first stage of weathering. You see the brown marks, which was done with a sponge and a wood stain, which was an absolute awful smell at the time. You see the blending of the blue and the green. So I'm very happy with that look there. It looked very clean, but I didn't want this absolute clean fishing boat. And it remained quite sticky for a long time. So now I need to get to the second stage of weathering and the third. So I sort of want three different tones. So this was a dark brown tone which is on there. And I need to think what I can do which is also water resistant, waterproof, so it won't come off when I'm using the boat, and it will really make it look like an old fishing boat. For now, I probably won't do anything further to the wood. It's even got a little bit of damage on it, but it looks okay. It doesn't look brand spanking new. The white is a little bit fresh. Probably dirty the white up a little bit, but it's not an overwhelming amount of white. So there's the internals, there's the extension here, which I sort of messed up a little bit, which holds the rudder on, prop, batteries, motor mount, so you've got that mast, you've got a smaller mast at the back, you have got these long fishing poles which are also tapered, which are, there's another view of them, those ones there, and they simply don't look good if you don't taper them. And then there's this bracing piece for the foremast, which I don't know if that's tapered as well. And then we've got a bunch of lines. Luckily this model has not got a lot of lines, but you know, there's a lot of stuff that gives it its final effect. I have sewed these. So this was hand stitched. I just hand stitched that. So that part is done. That's okay. That looks nicely sort of aged enough. There are these various bits which go inside and brace the battery and the receiver and the servos and so on. There is the, so this, now if you'll remember, I was speaking about a tapering tool that I was making, and that is the actual big challenge next, is to ensure that my tapering tool, and I'll make a video, it's right over there on the drill press where I can run the mast up and down a sanding disc, so that instead of doing what a lathe would do by turning the mast and then gradually eating away, I don't have a lathe, but the other method is, which I haven't seen anyone use actually, so maybe I'm the first to do that. Well, it's highly unlikely I'd be the first, but running the whole shaft up and down the sanding disc at a preset angle to actually taper it. And that is the one that I was sort of set to do, so that you end up with, now this paintbrush is nicely tapered, sort of gives a little bit of an idea. It's not adequate for me to actually use for one of the masts, otherwise I might have done that. But it does give, it does give that impression of how little taper it really is. It goes from about 5 millimeters down to about 3 millimeters. And then this is one of the thinner ones, which is it's less than 3 millimeters to start with. About 2.5. And then keeping it, this is the thinking that I had back about a year ago, as it was being tapered, it would be inside this tube for bracing purposes, because it gets a little bit, as the sanding disc is pressed against it with minimal force, it needs to be just held so that it doesn't snap easily. So to make progress at this point, there's a little bit to do on railings. So those on top of the white, which is the lower part of that, there's these little bits, which if I show you on this one, you might be able to see it. The very thin railing that's above that, I can't remember what this is called. Is it called the gunwale, the gunnel? I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Once I have tapered, so this is the one with the most, there's two of them with the most width. So you see on those masts, once they're tapered, I need to bend brass wire, and build all of those steps and embed them into the mast, both there and that side. So on this piece, there's the mast that runs through down onto the deck there, and then you've got all the steps to be able to climb right up. So yes, mast tapering, steps, and railings. Now those railings, they're somewhat the easier part of it, but they're not that easy. So I do need to get it right where I have, I'd have to drill holes in this little section, which overlaps here. I would need to drill holes so that the dowels, which are the vertical parts which are going to hold up that railing, which I don't think has an actual, I think that has to be bent from, probably from something like that, unless I make it out of wire. I'll have a look at what I've got, because this would be too thin. This would break immediately. Spend the time ensuring that I get the correct sort of bend the correct placement, seat them well so that those railings, while somewhat precarious, actually have more strength than you would have imagined them to have. This was, oh, that's right, this was skew. I forgot about that. I'm not sure where that is right now. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this rudder post unfortunately has been well embedded into there, and it has the shaft very nicely on there, and I was all happy with it. This is almost 2 decades ago, and I think it goes the other way around. Yeah, so that goes up onto the angle of there. But the actual angle of this, while may not be very obvious at this point, is wrong. The pillar here is a few degrees off. Now to get that bush out, there's only one way that I can think of at the moment, and that is I'm going to have to drill a hole from the bottom more or less in line with that so that I can get a little something through to knock it out. It's not glued in, but it's in very tight. Then I'm going to have to sort of ream that hole a little bit, and then unfortunately it won't be a press fit anymore. Make sure that I do that correctly and don't end up reaming incorrectly and have to ream again and again and again and totally ruin this piece of wood. So it's very close, but I think you will be able to see that it should be like about an angle like there, and it's slightly tilted over to a few degrees to that side. Now that makes a difference when this is in position there, and those two have to match and be able to pivot correctly. Now I did talk about this. I made the silly blunder of incorrectly fitting that piece. So this was supposed to fit in that way, but not because this was wrong, but because that piece was mounted incorrectly. But that's not the worst. So I'll have to do a little bit of a mod over there so that this can get in properly and line up with that post there. So yes, there's a number of little things that are going to take an amount of careful work to get right, but it's it's getting so close to finished. And it's certainly not one of the most difficult boats ever. And then I can get to that. The Escampavia Pilar. Now that one is not on a schedule to be finished at all in any hurry. But I did, in my early videos, do an amount of work on the bulkheads, redoing the bulkheads. And I spoke at length about that, and marking out and measuring and realizing in fact that the way they supplied in the kit was absolutely terrible. And if I remember correctly, I can't remember if I was going to be remaking this piece completely as well. There was some wood that I had, but this is 1.5 millimeter or something. So anyway, once the Marina is finished, I can actually, slowly start gluing pieces onto this and making a little bit of progress on that one, but it's all going to stand dead still if I don't continue on this Marina a little bit. So there's that mast, and there's that. So you know, it's little sections with quite a lot of detail that do need their due attention. Now, if my mast tapering system works quite well, that'll be, I'll be very happy with what I've achieved there, and it'll be a video all on its own, just working that mast and seeing if we can get this right. So these aluminium tubes, while it's not the perfect fit at the moment, this needs to be able to not budge at all like it can at the moment. So we don't want that budging. That is to allow me to brace this while tapering certain sections. So the one side will be close to the size that it is right now, and as you move up and up and up, it gets thinner and thinner. And when I've still yet to sort of plan exactly how I intend to do this process. Do I start at the one side and get it right down to the correct thinness? Well, my process doesn't rely on working one area, because that's more like lathing. It more sort of takes off and takes off and takes off and takes off all the way, gradually thinning it down. But it does mean that as this gets thinner and thinner, it's more susceptible to breaking, and that this tube won't work anymore, which is why there's multiple tubes that actually get. So this green one can then be put inside the aluminium tube, so that you can brace it when it gets down to a quite thin one, or whatever tube, I can't remember. I think the green one was going to be about right for that. And to aid the snug fit, you just wrap a piece of paper around once, and that'll adequately sort of get you a good snug fit. So that's the boat. Wheelie is at the moment, I need to draw out my views, one side, draw out one side, make sure that I'm happy with it, duplicate that on the other side, except for the door, the sliding door is on the one side, and it's fairly easy to fit the sort of windscreen and the roof and all that on. So not the wheelie shape is really forgiving, because there's no absolute. If you make it slightly off, if you're a little bit wrong, sort of all just adds to the character of the thing. So not difficult, I just need to actually get to it. So I'll set aside, and to be honest, the B1, while the B1 itself hasn't taken much out of me, I think just all of the fast pace up to now just sort of makes me want to just set the plastic aside for a while. And it would be so nice to have a completed boat. And the Pilar, while not a difficult boat at all either, a very nice looking one, you know, it's not the fastest of projects, but once that's done, I can actually get to my big difficult project, or quite a bit more difficult than usual, that Shirley and Stern trawler, which I have shown in a video. But that can be a long-term. I just don't want to really be in a position where I'm working on multiple boats at the same time. The work area inside is always a problem, especially when I see the pictures online, and I'm sure you've seen enough of these guys posting absolutely beautiful clean work areas, which does make it is so nice to be able to pack out a model. All your tools and paints are so nicely arranged, and there's no mess anywhere. I loosely use the word mess because it's model related, it's not really mess. But I don't know if I can ever reach that, but I'd like to at least have the invitation of a somewhat clear desk again. And while that's happening, this area can be the main work area for a little while. So that's what I will do. I think this afternoon I will clean off this desk. Okay, happy modeling. Cheers.